The rain fell harder than it had all week, turning the streets of downtown Chicago into rivers of rushing water. Most people hurried past with umbrellas and expensive coats, but Rebecca Martinez sat huddled under the narrow awning of a closed bookstore, her thin jacket doing little to keep out the October chill. Her stomach hadn't seen food in 2 days, and the paper cup beside her held only 37 cents. At 52, Rebecca had once been a successful nurse at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. She had owned a small apartment, drove a reliable Honda, and spent her weekends volunteering at the children's ward. But life has a way of changing everything in an instant. When her husband David died suddenly from a heart attack, the medical bills started piling up. Without his income as a construction supervisor, Rebecca couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments. The house went into foreclosure, and despite working double shifts, she found herself living in her car within 6 months. Then the car broke down. The repair costs were more than she had, and suddenly Rebecca was on the streets with nothing but a worn backpack and the clothes on her back. The woman who had once saved lives was now invisible to the world around her. Across the street, through the rain-streaked window of Marcel's bistro, sat Thomas Wellington III. At 45, he was everything Rebecca was not. His tailored suit cost more than most people made in a month, and his Swiss watch gleamed under the restaurant's warm lighting. Thomas had built a tech empire from nothing, turning a small app development company into a billion-dollar corporation. He dined alone most evenings, preferring the quiet corner table where he could work on his tablet while eating. But tonight was different. As Thomas picked at his expensive salmon, something made him look up from his screen. Through the window, he saw Rebecca's hunched figure under the bookstore awning. She was trying to shield herself from the wind-driven rain, and even from across the street, he could see her shivering. Thomas had built his fortune by being focused and decisive, but he'd also built walls around his heart. His rise to success had come at a cost. 2 failed marriages, estranged children who only called when they needed money, and a loneliness that no amount of wealth could fill. He'd forgotten what it felt like to truly connect with another human being. The waiter approached his table. "Marcus, this is delicious as always, but I'm not very hungry tonight. Could you box this up for me?" Thomas asked, gesturing to his barely touched meal. "Of course, Mr. Wellington. Would you like me to call your driver?" "Not yet, Marcus. I'll be just a few more minutes." Thomas sat back and watched Rebecca through the window. Something about her reminded him of his own mother, who had worked 3 jobs to put him through college after his father left them. She'd had that same determined posture, that same quiet dignity even when things were at their worst. His mother had passed away 5 years ago, and Thomas realized with a pang of guilt that he'd been too busy with board meetings to spend her final months with her. The rain was getting worse, and Rebecca was now standing, preparing to venture into the storm. Thomas made a decision that would change both their lives forever. He grabbed the boxed meal and headed for the door. Marcus looked surprised as Thomas left a $100 tip and rushed out into the rain without his umbrella or coat. "Excuse me," Thomas called out as he jogged across the street, getting soaked in the process. The elegant businessman looked completely out of place as he approached the homeless woman. Rebecca looked up, startled. Her brown eyes held a mixture of wariness and hope that struck Thomas like a physical blow. She was younger than he'd thought, with graying hair pulled back and laugh lines around her eyes that spoke of better times. "I'm sorry to bother you," Thomas said, suddenly feeling awkward. "I was having dinner across the street and I ordered too much. I was wondering if you might like this." He held out the white takeout container. Rebecca stared at him, then at the box. She'd been refused so many times, yelled at, ignored, and worse. But this man's eyes held no judgment, no pity, just simple human kindness. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly, her voice hoarse from the cold. "Absolutely." Thomas smiled, and for the first time in years, it felt genuine. "What's your name?" "Rebecca. Rebecca Martinez." "And you're getting soaked, sir. You should get back inside." "I'm Thomas." And a little rain never hurt anyone. He paused, studying her face. Rebecca, can I ask you something personal? She nodded, clutching the warm container like a lifeline. You have kind eyes. The eyes of someone who's helped people. What did you do before? Rebecca's face crumpled slightly. I was a nurse. 23 years at Northwestern Memorial. I specialized in pediatric care. Thomas felt his heart skip. His own daughter Emma had been treated in that same pediatric ward when she was 7, fighting leukemia. The nurses there had been angels, caring for Emma when he was too scared and too busy to know how to help his own child. 23 years, Thomas repeated softly. You must have helped so many families. I tried to. Rebecca wiped her eyes with her free hand. I really tried to make a difference. They stood in the rain for several more minutes, and Rebecca found herself telling Thomas about David, about losing the house, about how quickly everything had fallen apart. Thomas listened without interrupting, without offering hollow platitudes or easy solutions. Finally, Thomas pulled out his business card and wrote something on the back. Rebecca, I want you to do something for me. Tomorrow morning, I want you to go to this address. Ask for Jennifer Walsh, she's my assistant. Tell her I sent you. Rebecca looked at the card, confused. What's at this address? Opportunity, Thomas said simply. And a chance for someone with 23 years of nursing experience to help people again. The address was Thomas's corporate headquarters. What Rebecca didn't know was that Thomas's company had just opened a state-of-the-art medical clinic for employees and their families, but they were struggling to find experienced nurses who truly cared about patient welfare rather than just collecting a paycheck. I don't understand, she whispered. Rebecca, I built my company on the belief that everyone deserves a second chance. Sometimes life knocks us down, but that doesn't mean we have to stay down. You helped my daughter once, in that pediatric ward. You probably don't remember her, Emma Wellington, but she had leukemia when she was 7. The nurses there saved her life and helped our family through the darkest time we'd ever faced. Rebecca's eyes widened in recognition. Emma, the little girl with the stuffed elephant? Who drew pictures for all the other children? That's her, Thomas said, his voice thick with emotion. She's 22 now, healthy and strong, because of nurses like you. I remember her. She was so brave. How is she? She's graduating medical school next month. She wants to be a pediatric oncologist because of the care she received in that ward. They both stood crying in the rain, two broken people finding healing in an unexpected moment of connection. 6 months later, Rebecca Martinez walked into the Wellington Medical Center wearing scrubs again, her head held high. She'd spent weeks in Thomas's company apartment, getting back on her feet, taking refresher courses, and rediscovering her purpose. Thomas had offered her a job, not as charity, but because he recognized her value and experience. The medical center became known throughout Chicago for its compassionate care, largely because of Rebecca's leadership in training other nurses to treat each patient like family. She eventually became the head of nursing, and under her guidance, the center became a model for employee healthcare across the country. Thomas and Rebecca became unlikely friends, bonded by that rainy October night when two strangers showed each other the power of human kindness. Thomas learned to open his heart again, rebuilding relationships with his children and finding joy in helping others succeed. Rebecca proved that our worst moments don't define us, our response to them does. Emma Wellington did become a pediatric oncologist, and she often worked alongside Rebecca, learning from the woman who had helped save her life twice, once as a child patient, and once by showing her father what true compassion looked like. The story of that rainy night spread throughout their community, inspiring countless other acts of kindness between strangers. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing we can do is simply see another person's humanity and respond with our own. Rebecca kept the business card Thomas gave her that night, framed in her office as a reminder that miracles don't always come as grand gestures. Sometimes they come as a simple meal offered by a stranger in the rain, and the courage to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. This story reminds us that every person we meet is fighting battles we know nothing about, and that a single act of kindness can change everything. In a world that often feels divided and cold, we all have the power to be the miracle someone else needs. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to Pure Kindness Stories, and share this message with someone who needs to be reminded that good people still exist. Because when we choose kindness, we don't just change one life, we change the world, one heart at a time.